Before the arrival of the first Europeans to the lands we now call the Americas, there were peoples deeply connected to oral traditions and their visions of the cosmos. These communities, spread across vast forests, mountains, and plains, shared knowledge about the origins of the world, the nature of life, and the presence of beings who came from the sky. They told stories of these visitors bringing teachings, offering guidance, and forming relationships of respect with those who were ready to listen and learn. With the advance of European conquest, there was not only the physical decimation of these peoples, but also the erasure of much of their knowledge about these mysterious presences. What remained were only fragments of wisdom that survived thanks to the efforts of survivors and their descendants. Passed down orally from one generation to the next, these narratives have endured, preserving records of encounters between humans and stellar travelers. These stories, kept alive through songs, symbols, and memories, suggest that the ancient world wasn't isolated. On the contrary, it seemed open to contact with different intelligences, as if Earth was a meeting point between diverse realities. While much has been lost over time, the accounts that still resonate among indigenous peoples hint at a distant past where connections existed between humans and celestial visitors, leaving clues about a dialogue we may one day come to understand more fully. Since ancient times, people around the world have recorded encounters with beings and vehicles from the sky. These descriptions, often framed as myths, tell of visitors who possess tools and knowledge that are hard to explain in familiar terms. Among the indigenous nations of North America, these stories are common, and one person who brings them to light is the writer Richard Wagamese. In his words, he refers to the star people, visitors who arrived many generations ago, sharing teachings, star maps, and a different perspective on the universe. They left such a deep impression that when they departed, they created a void felt by all. This raises questions about where they came from, where they went, and how they achieved feats that seem beyond human capability. Could they have been using a kind of science so advanced that it might seem like magic to us? The Hopi culture provides a fascinating example. They tell stories that their ancestors came from the Pleiades, a cluster of stars they see not just as points of light in the night sky, but as the source of their spiritual heritage. The Hopi way of life still carries echoes of this connection, suggesting that their origin stories might hold more than just imagination. In many traditions, the stars weren't just distant lights in the sky, but points of origin. The Dakota referred to one of these star clusters as Diami, believing it to be the original home of their ancestors. Similarly, the Cree told stories of how, in a time before records, their ancestors arrived as spirits from the sky, transforming into humans when they set foot on the earth. These narratives also describe beings appearing as luminous spheres, capable of taking children on journeys through space and time. Among native peoples of North America, encounters with visitors from other realms are often seen not as mere sightings, but as part of a spiritual dialogue. Cree Plains author Stepan Ugod-Tun points out that his people tend to seek inner understanding, rather than chasing an objective truth, as is common in dominant cultures. This approach reflects a deeper care for listening and observing, before asking questions or jumping to conclusions. In this context, people like Gutun grew up learning the importance of paying attention to the oldest voices in their communities. These voices spoke of distant relationships, star beings, and connections that linked life on the ground to the vastness of the sky. Guttunir recalls a time when the term star people was a natural part of everyday life. As a child, he often heard stories about beings who lived beyond what we know, and the idea of maintaining some kind of contact with them seemed perfectly normal. On certain nights, he would try to speak to these presences, wondering if they lived in groups like us, if they had families, and what brought them to this world. Later, as a teenager, he discovered that dominant cultures also mentioned these figures, but in a very different way. While his community didn't see them as something to fear, others described them in a more distant and mysterious light. Over time, theories emerged suggesting that these accounts might have been altered over centuries, influenced by ancient phenomena linked to flying shields. As a result, the perception of the star people became more complex, shaped by various perspectives and interpretations. Black Elk, a holy man of the Oglala Sioux who traveled to other continents with Buffalo Bill's show, described an experience he had long before the idea of flying saucers became widely known. During a vision quest, he saw an object descending from above. It was a structure made of concave layers, landing silently in front of him but surrounded by an unusual glow. Even the tobacco offerings and ties around him seemed to emit their own light in that moment. Then, small beings emerged from the object, organized into groups speaking different languages. There was no sound, only a direct understanding through the mind, as if communication didn't require words or gestures. Black Elk was able to understand what they thought, and they could feel what he felt. They exchanged greetings and he welcomed them as travelers from beyond the world he knew. Years later, others would call that object a UFO, and those beings extraterrestrials. For Black Elk, though, it was simply a profound encounter, witnessed in a time when contact between worlds, whether human or from beyond the stars, didn't need labels, just respect and an openness to understand what appeared before his eyes. In many Native American traditions, the Earth isn't just a resource but a living being, a source that sustains everything and everyone. From this perspective, Indigenous peoples see themselves as responsible for protecting the planet, acting as guardians who maintain the balance between humans, animals, plants, and unseen forces. Within this framework, the current direction of humanity raises concern, as the chosen path seems to disconnect people from their origins. For many tribal leaders, the loss of connection with what they call the Star People is directly tied to how we treat the place we live. As the Earth suffers, the harmony with these distant visitors diminishes. By rethinking our actions and embracing care and respect for the planet, we might be able to restore a dormant bond. Perhaps beyond what we can see, attentive beings are waiting for the moment when we take on our true responsibility, bringing back the harmony between worlds that once felt much closer.